Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to WFMT's Classical Conversations, in which we have the pleasure of talking with the most engaging people in classical music and the arts. I'm George Preston, VP of Radio and General Manager of WFMT, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have the world-renowned conductor Marin Alsop, Chief Conductor and Curator at the Ravinia Festival, among many other posts, as our guest for today's conversation. One of the foremost conductors of our time, Marin Alsop represents a powerful and inspiring voice. Convinced that music has the power to change lives, she is internationally recognized for her innovative approach to programming and audience development, deep commitment to education, and advocacy for music's importance in the world. The first woman to serve as the head of a major orchestra in the United States, South America, Austria, and Britain, she is, as the New York Times put it, not only a formidable musician and a powerful communicator, but also a conductor with a vision. Before we begin, I would like to thank WFMT's 70th anniversary lead sponsor, BMO Harris Bank, for their support of this series, which helps us fulfill our purpose to enrich lives, engage communities, and inspire exploration. Marin Alsop, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to speak with you. Not in person, but it's pretty close.
Well, in person pretty soon, we hope, in just a couple of months' time. Before we start talking about serious classical music business, let me ask you something. In your pre-classical music days, what were your musical influences that were more pop-oriented? I remember we were talking about this the other day. I liked the Monkees. I know I'm dating myself here. And the Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel. What were the things that you listened to?
Well, I'd say it's pretty similar. I mean, first I should share that for me, there were no pre-classical days because I was born into a family of professional classical musicians. So it was never, before and after. It was always during. But I would say for sure the Beatles were my go-to musical influence. I had a huge poster of them on my bedroom wall. And then later I added Leonard Bernstein, but he was smaller, a poster anyway.
Now, we've been through more than a year of a pandemic and no in-person live performances. And a lot of us have reflected about the importance of music in our lives. We've heard from a lot of our listeners how WFMT and this music has been a lifeline for them. And we're grateful that we've partnered with Ravinia on a lot of programs that we've been able to present during the pandemic. Has the past year refocused your thinking about classical music as a force for positive change in the world?
Well, I think it's for all of us, it's sort of reshuffled and readjusted our priorities, hasn't it? It's really been a wake-up call on so many levels. But I think in terms of my commitment and my belief that the arts, and particularly music, can be a transformative vehicle for change. I think it's reinforced that because I see how much we miss the human connection. We miss gathering. We miss sharing an experience. We've all learned to adapt to these Zoom experiences, but we're missing that that ability to touch each other in a way that's emotional and brings comfort. And only human interaction can do that. And music, of course, is an incredible way of interacting for human beings. And it's something that you're born with. Everyone's born hot wired for music.
I want to remind our audience that we'll save some time at the end for your questions. So please put them in, however you're viewing this, in comments on Facebook or in the Q&A in the Zoom seminar, and we'll sort through them and get to some of your questions at the end. Marin, I was looking at your website and I noticed that you advise aspiring female conductors never to interpret rejection as gender bias. Can you talk about why this is so important to you?
Well, I think that, that's not, I'm not saying that it isn't gender bias either. I mean, that's an important distinction. But I think there's a difference in, uh, something I really worked hard at was never thinking I wasn't given an opportunity because I was a woman. Because what that would have done, it would have, I think, given me a pass. I would have been able to say, well, I didn't get that because I'm a woman, or developed a chip on my shoulder about it, that look, I deserve more or something. But instead, I tried to use every rejection as an opportunity to rethink what I was doing and to try to hone my skills and be better at what I wanted to do. And I think in some ways those rejections then they take on a different tone. It's more about opportunity rather than about being oppressed.
Mm-hmm. But certainly there is some gender bias, and you've worked against that throughout your career.
Well, certainly. I mean, I think I would be naive, and certainly I'm not the right person to say there is no gender bias. There most definitely is. But what we see now, I mean, I'm really thrilled. I try to look again at the positive and, look at the road in front of us rather than too much at the road in behind us. But I think in part, thanks to the Me Too movement, we see a lot more receptivity to women on the podiums, a lot more receptivity to women composers. Because of our experience this past year, we see an openness now to underrepresented people on the stages. This is a fantastic progression, but at the same time, if I started looking back, I could start to feel some real anger because it's not as though there haven't been talented women, talented minorities here and waiting for opportunities, but the doors have not been open. Now that the doors are open, I say, let's try to be the best we can be and seize the moment.
We're going to show a brief video clip next of you as a young conductor being coached by your mentor, the great Leonard Bernstein. And then after the clip, I'd love for you to talk about what that brings to mind for you now. So John, can we start that clip, please?
Spaces before the piano each time.
So I'm not this
And
time.
this one,
I think not.
close.
Yes.
Why
I
not?
fixed now.
Why not all the time?
This is such a surprise. A beautiful, warm.
See, you
spring
cut
sun.
this off.
Yes.
There's a hole.
Yes. So we
And
try to
this way,
sustain.
there's no hole.
Mm-hmm.
See if you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little hard.
I know, a little tricky, huh? Well, you stay here, okay?
Also, I do the I do the ornament differently too. But we'll talk about that.
Okay, good. Wonderful.
In days to come. All right.
So I'm trying. Am I allowed to tell him? I'm trying to no space before we go on to the piano after the first fermata. I think, really, I would have gone to the moon to work with Leonard Bernstein.
That's such a fabulous clip. And every time I look at it, I see something new. Like he's shadow conducting behind you a little bit. So what is your reaction to looking at that and remembering working with Bernstein? And what do you bring to your work today
Well,
from an experience like that?
This was my first encounter as a conductor with Leonard Bernstein, and of course I was I was beyond terrified. Although I think I don't look completely terrified, and I already see that we just met, but he's such a kind person. You feel that, right? When he hugs me and grabs me, and um, his his warmth and his accessibility and his willingness to give of his knowledge is something that just grew and grew and grew with us over time. And he was, I don't know how he would have survived this COVID, because he affectionate doesn't even begin to describe him. He was like a big puppy, and just jumping all over you. And I think he would have had a really, really tough time. But it's lovely to see the the birth of this relationship for me, because he was my idol growing up. I had seen him conduct when I was 9 years old, and that's what prompted me to get this crazy idea that I wanted to be a conductor. And it wasn't so much about his conducting, but it was about his enthusiasm for the music and his willingness to let let his let that enthusiasm come through, not be embarrassed by it. And then when he started conducting at that concert I went to when I was 9 years old, he was jumping around, and I thought, oh my God, this is the most fun thing ever. I definitely have to be the conductor. And so, of course, he became this bigger than life. I mean, he was always bigger than life, but this idol for me. And then meeting him and, you know, seriously developing this relationship together, um, it just exceeded all of my expectations. And I realized that it's so important to young people that they have mentors and they have people that they can go to for advice. They can rely on, just a small thing you may say to someone. It doesn't have to be in this context of a teacher student either, but a small thing you say to someone can really change their lives. And so when I see that, it makes me recommit to trying to give back um, as much as I possibly can.
You mentioned that he would have had a really tough time with this pandemic and the isolation that it has brought. What do you think he would have made of the past year in terms of the political turmoil and the focus on traditionally ignored people being more included in classical music and more women being included in classical music?
Well, um, I think that the isolation would have killed him, on some level, or it would have been very, very tough for him. Of course, he had a, a very his family is very close with him, and a very close circle of friends that would have mitigated that a bit. But as far as the political turmoil that we've been through and continue to go through, he, as always, he would have been front and center. I mean, he could not stay out of any kind of good argument was, fodder for him. And especially argument about, truth, justice, being American, um, all of these things. When you look at his life, he led a life of championing the sort of the underserved. He in 1966 he hired the first woman to assist him at the New York Philharmonic, and they had to get the orchestra's charter changed to allow a woman to conduct. Um, he, of course, there's the famous and infamous story about the fundraiser that he and his wife did for the Black Panthers
Mm-hmm.
to support the movement. Um, he really was a champion of all humanity. But in particular, the people who didn't have a voice. And I think we need him now. I think it would have been painful for him, but I think we could have used him.
I want to remind our audience that we're saving time at the end of this for some Q&A. So if you have a question for Marin Alsop, then drop it in the Q&A on the Zoom or in the comments if you're watching on Facebook. We're going to go to another video, more recent. This is one of you conducting an excerpt from Gustav Mahler's Symphony No. 1, the Titan, with the National Youth Orchestra of the United States of America. And then we'll talk about it once we see it. So, John, please. There we go. That's so exciting. I have to say, that makes me want to go to a live concert so badly.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? And the kids did so well.
Well, you've talked about how important it is to mentor young people and how just a simple comment can make such a difference. I've been the recipient of that in my career and my life. What do you get from working with young people like this?
Well, it's an incredible opportunity to offer some advice, I mean, not literally maybe, but some to help them shape the way they look at a career in music. I think from my perspective, it's wonderful to work with young musicians who are just so open to ideas and trying things. And when you see the Grand Canyon for the first time, it's a different experience, and that's what it's like working with young people. They're seeing a Mahler symphony maybe for the first time, and it's just you almost have that same awe that you had at the first time. I think it keeps us young to stay connected with young people and their journey. One of the most important things to me is that young people find their passion, whether it's music or something else, and that if it stops being their passion, they stop pursuing it. They need to continue that journey. So for me, music is, again, it's not necessarily a destination, but it's a vehicle And it's a great privilege to be a musician. And that's what I try to instill in young people, that if it stops feeling like it's a privilege, stop doing it.
Yes, there are more viable career options for most of us than being a professional musician.
Yeah, and your
it must
parents
be
will
said.
probably be very happy about it too.
Yes, we send our kids to music camp in the summer, and sometimes I think to myself, there should be like an electrician summer camp for kids. You never know. I know the full Ravinia season has not yet been announced. I've seen a bit of a preview of it, so I have an idea about what's going on. But I gather you have been cleared to talk about just a few things and drop some hints with us today, right?
Well, I've been put in the unenviable spot of dropping a couple hints, but don't tell them anything. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm supposed to do that. But I would say, I think the most exciting part is that there will be a Ravinia season, that this is an opportunity to return to something that brings people joy and um, real tradition, a sense of connecting, a sense of gathering. I'm thrilled that the Chicago Symphony will be again in residence for 6 weeks, performing 2 to 3 concerts in each of those weeks. I'll be conducting 7 concerts with the CSO. And I have to say that we've tried to put, I think this is the 3rd iteration of programs, because we've tried to work with all the COVID restrictions, and also I think trying to have an ear to the new programming options that we have in front of us today, which have really dramatically changed over this COVID time. And of course, which absolutely thrills me to no end. So
you mean
I
in terms
think,
of the technology of programming and how we share the
no,
music?
I was really referring more to an openness to more diverse composers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to, we're going to bring you some pieces by voices that you may not have heard before, but are really, really telling, really exciting on the classical music scene. Of course, we're going to perform lots of the standard repertoire that people know and love. Exciting new debuts for several people, but also, you'll recognize a lot of the soloists. You'll recognize a lot of people on the stage. The one thing I would like to share is this: in following through with our talk earlier about young talent,
Mhm.
and my particular commitment to young conductors, we're very excited to start a new feature at Ravinia, which will be a spotlight on a young conductor. And I've been cleared to tell you that the young conductor is a former student of mine at Peabody, who's currently the assistant conductor at the Baltimore Symphony, named Jonathan Rush. And he's super talented, and he'll conduct one piece on a program with me. So that's going to be, I think, a real hallmark initiative for us moving forward. And we're very excited about that.
I can't wait till we're able to announce the schedule and share it and put some of these programs
It's
on the
soon. I think
air
we
as
only have
well.
about 7 days to wait.
Yeah. Yeah. But the programming has changed, and I'm thrilled to see it. I wish I could say more about it, but I'm not cleared to at this point. But just getting back there, experiencing music together, and I must say, including a traditionally neglected artists and composers, we've been doing that really intentionally over the past several months, year, even more than we had been before. And it's interesting that our listenership is the best it's been in several years right now.
Wow, that's really interesting.
And I have to say that we recently completed a membership drive, and we asked people to comment on how WFMT keeps them connected. And I loved one listener comment so much, where a gentleman said, the diversity of your programming mirrors our diversity as a nation and reminds us that we have more in common than what separates us. And I thought, I couldn't have hired a PR firm to come up with a better statement than that about what I hope classical music can do for us.
I think that's absolutely beautiful, and a great testament to your programming. And I think that this year has opened up people's eyes and ears to experiencing a wider range. You know, not just the small swath of composers we usually see from Haydn to Stravinsky, but really really a more embracing offering. And that's what we're trying to do, a little bit of that at Ravinia, while maintaining the incredible tradition. And for me, one of the most attractive qualities about Ravinia is the diversity of programming. You know, so you have the classical, and then you have the pops, and then you have the, you know, sort of more contemporary. You have the the current artists and chamber music. You have the incredible vocal program. So there's such a wide variety that it's impossible not to find something that you'll love there.
I want to remind folks that we're going to be rebroadcasting our latest set of Ravinia recitals that were recorded in Bennett Gordon Hall and were previously broadcast on WFMT. We've put them in a different time slot, different day. So listen Saturdays at 6 p.m. for the next several weeks to WFMT at 98.7 FM or WFMT.com to hear those programs. You might have missed them in their previous slot, and that'll help, I think, generate some enthusiasm for the season to come. And so I think it's the 6th when programming is made public, when the official announcement, May 6th, right, Marin?
May 6th.
And so then everything will be on the website at ravinia.org.
Yep, absolutely. But more importantly, come on out this summer and enjoy a concert and enjoy humanity through music.
I want to have quite a few listener questions, so I want to get to some of these. Dave asks, given the COVID-19 restrictions, how are you adjusting your programming plans, and have there been any creative silver linings?
Great question. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, I think we settled finally in the 3rd iteration of programming, and I think because of the restrictions in numbers of people on the stage and the distancing, we've been able to explore new arrangements of familiar works, you know, and also explore a whole part of the repertoire that isn't traditionally performed by an orchestra the size of the Chicago Symphony. So I think the experience will be, it'll be both familiar, but also more intimate. And I think on some level, I hope it'll be more exciting for people to hear some pieces that they know in a different context, and also some new pieces that normally aren't programmed.
I also anticipate people will come to concerts with a renewed sense of appreciation and not just take it for granted as the routine.
Well, we certainly will.
Dorothy asks, how was it working with the stay-at-home choir on the Beethoven 9th project? Apparently she was in the choir, and she says it was thrilling for her.
Oh, that's absolutely marvelous. Thank you. The stay-at-home choir is, as it as you hear, it's a gathering of vocalists from home who participated in I had originally planned to do a global ode to joy on 6 continents with 9 new texts and all kinds of things. And of course, much of it was postponed or canceled. And then YouTube and Google came on board to create a project about joy with me. And that's what they participated in. And they sang we used the new lyrics by Tracy K. Smith, a former US poet laureate. And I recorded the orchestra tracks in Vienna with my orchestra there, the Vienna Radio Symphony Orchestra. And we brought all of these different and diverse groups of people together. Oh, it was absolutely thrilling. And I'm about to launch a live performance with a new text in Vienna on July 3rd. And we're doing another stay-at-home project, but in Austria this time. So I don't know if Dorothy wants to go to Austria. We could use you again.
Is travel lifted now? Can you go there?
Yeah, I think it's probably only for essential travel still.
We got a message from Sierra who says, I'm a choral conductor studying for my master's degree, working on a lot of choral and orchestral pieces, and hope to continue making that focus down the road. She's wondering what advice you might have for choral conductors prepping the choir to work with orchestras. What do you look for in an excellent choir conductor when deciding who to work with and preparing for such a collaboration?
Well, this must have been a very challenging time for choral conductors. I mean, it's really, really, my heart goes out to them all. I know that many of my colleagues who sing in choirs have almost felt a grieving process, of not being able to gather every week and not being able to be in the same space to sing. That said, I'm hoping we'll be back at full force soon. And what I look for really in a choral conductor is the end result. If you create a choir with a distinctive sound, with a distinctive musical personality that can really sing and turn around and do a Porgy and Bess, for example, with swing and with an American sound. That's what impresses me. It's the quality of the blend and the variety of style in a choir. And those are the choirs I'm drawn to working with. And, fortunately in Chicago and at Ravinia, we have the best of the best. Absolutely, no doubt, between the Chicago Symphony Orchestra Choir and Josephine Lee.
I think we've lost Marin, but I just saw that Jeff Hayden of Ravinia is on. I don't think he's a panelist right now. We're due to end this conversation in just a few minutes, but John, if you can possibly make Jeff Hayden, if you see him there, a panelist, maybe we can say hello to him briefly and chat for just a moment. And I see Jeff popping up there as a panelist now. Hey.
Hey, how you doing, George?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you, my friend.
It's great to see you as well. I thought I might just join in and say hi and thank you for covering Ravinia and inviting Marin to join you.
Well, I'm going to ask you, Jeff, and I know you can't disclose a lot about what's going on at Ravinia right now. What are you most excited about in presenting the season?
Well, I'm going to take Marin's answer as well, but I think personally, I'm very excited about the Chicago Symphony Orchestra coming back. As some of you know, I worked for the Chicago Symphony about 20 years ago, and I'm also a former brass player. And so I have a high affection, and I'm just thrilled that the orchestra is going to be coming back. And to work with Marin. Marin and our careers have sort of gone in, we've almost touched a couple of different times, but actually not quite worked together. She was at the Cabrillo Music Festival when I was in Ojai. I worked at the Baltimore Symphony before she was in Baltimore, and we have obviously a number of friends in common. And so I can't tell you what a thrill it is to actually work with Marin in programming. And as she said, bringing that diversity of programming to Ravinia is fantastic. And I think, everyone will see something that they love and something that'll be intriguing for them to learn and to see new.
We're ending the program in just a minute here, but I'll offer our audience, if anyone has a question for Jeff specifically, this is your opportunity. Drop it in the Q&A, or if you're on Facebook, we have someone looking at that. You can put it in a comment. There are some ways in which Zoom has saved our lives, but I'm not going to miss the part of it where someone drops out of a discussion or a meeting because of the internet connection. And apparently Marin's internet just absolutely stopped working. Someone asks, what brass instrument did you play, Jeff?
It's a good question. So I started off on trumpet and graduated all the way down to tuba. So I have Arnold Jacobs' book, and Gene Picorni and I are in conversation as well. So we actually are enlisting the brass section to come up and sort of do a little bit of a musical teaser for us in June. So stay tuned.
And we have someone asking if the pavilion will be open now that vaccinations are up, the vaccination rates, I think he means, right?
Yes, so all of our concerts are going to be outside this year, and we're just going to follow the capacity levels that the regulators allow us to do. So right now, today, we could open our doors at 25%. We're all cautiously optimistic that that number will increase by the time we all get together in July. 25% in the pavilion is a little light, but even 50 or 60% would feel a lot better. I think the key, though, and part of the question earlier is with chamber music, we do have a full chamber music program, but unlike previous years, they are actually going to be the only concert for that day.
Right.
And so we're moving all of those chamber music concerts that you normally would hear in the Martin Theater or Bennett Gordon Hall, and we're putting them actually on the stage of the pavilion. So all public concerts are going to be outside in the outdoors on the pavilion stage. And so this gives people a chance to both sit in the pavilion and also to bring a blanket and listen to chamber music on the lawn as well.
So people will be able to sit in the pavilion, but just spaced out according to what the regulations are at that time. And someone else asks, when will Ravinia patrons get an email for early purchase of tickets?
Stay tuned. So the public announcement of the schedule is Thursday, May 6th, so exactly a week from today. And I believe that there are some emails going out now for special donor briefings a week from tomorrow for insights into the program. And I think the opportunity to buy tickets will be about a week after that. So in about 2 weeks, donors will be able to buy tickets.
All right. Well, Jeff Hayden, thanks for being a surprise guest on our classical conversations.
Thanks for letting me join in and jump in.
And obviously, I want to thank Marin Alsop for her time. It flew by. I want to thank everyone who joined us for this conversation today, and for all of you who asked questions and joined in. It's been great. I can't wait to get back to Ravinia for actual concerts in person. My kids have been asking me about it. When can we go back? And so just a prevailing sense of hope and joy that we're going to be able to do this again soon. I would like to thank WFMT's 70th anniversary lead sponsor, BMO Harris Bank, for their support of this Classical Conversations series, and all of you for being with us today. Please also join us for the WFMT and WTTW Virtual Gala, Your Front Row Seat, an anniversary celebration of music and the arts. That'll be held on Wednesday, May 5th. Again, you can visit wfmt.com/gala for more information. Also, check with our website. We're going to have another classical conversation very soon. And to join upcoming WTTW and WFMT community engagement events, please visit wttw.com/events and wfmt.com/events. And my thanks to Kira Dubowski, Tim Russell, John Wilmot, and Keegan Morris for their participation and assistance. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you at the next classical conversation.